sometimes kids feel more comfortable talking to their small group leaders.
Yeah.
And that isn't a reflection on your parenting at all. I think it just speaks to the community that they find at church.
Welcome to the More and Better podcast. It's our prayer and hope that this podcast would help and equip believers and build their faith and equip them with the tools of how to follow Christ better and be better followers of Him. My name is Winter, and I'm joined today by a couple of our Next Gen team members. We have Joe with us, who's our usual co-host.
Hello again.
Hello, and we also have our World Changers Pastor Nayeli Hernandez.
Hello, guys.
Hey, I'm so glad you guys are here with us. Kind of just kick us off in the very beginning, we're going to be talking a lot about just our Next Gen ministry, that's the next generation. That's kids, youth, all those things. So kind of, Nay, just give us even why do we call it World Changers?
Yeah, so here we really believe that it is not babysitting, it is leadership development. So whether you have a first grader or fifth grader, or even 12th grader. I mean, we are not babysitters. We are partnering with you guys. We are helping parents. We are helping families really build the next generation. And we believe that they don't have to wait until they're a certain age, until they're, at a certain point in their life to be leaders. They can be the light in this world at school, on the playground, at recess, during lunch. Like, we truly believe that they're world changers now, and they don't have to wait until they're older to begin that.
I love that.
Absolutely.
Joe, tell us a little about even what we have in our ministries.
Yeah, so it's awesome. Recently, we kind of switched over our terminology from World Changers and YTH to just Next Gen Ministry as a whole, because that's really our heart, is to reach everybody from the nursery up to graduating high school seniors. This is our next generation of leaders, next generation of Christ followers, and we've been working just as a team to kind of develop the system of, okay, like how do we build a foundation in kids when they're young, and then keep building that as they grow into young adults. And so we even partner together a lot in meetings of just like, okay, what can we do in Next Gen as a whole? How can we communicate better? How can we make launching points better? We do this thing once a year called Upgrade Weekend, where we are just sitting and planning and talking about like, man, our kiddos are so used to the ministries that they're in. Like, how do we better help them transition? How do we make them feel comfortable in these ministries? How do we make families feel comfortable in these ministries? And so whether it's World Changers on a Sunday or YTH on a Wednesday, it is our heart for all of our Next Gen ministry to give students, kids, families, all of the above, this experience where they feel like this is their church, this is their home.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And we even have, I love that something that's shifted in the past few years is YTH being almost like two things. We have the Sunday for specifically the JV.
Right.
It's like the mini YTH.
Yeah, a little YTH.
Those 6th through 8th graders.
Yeah, those junior high. I was trying to think of the word. It was like junior high ones, and then the whole big services. And World Changers is kind of divided up in a couple different departments too.
So,
tell us a little bit about that.
So we have our nursery, which we kind of call them our little dreamers, because the little ones, at least, they're sleeping. We're hoping
so
that
sweet.
They're dreaming their life. I don't even know if babies can dream, but we call them dreamers.
We need a fact check on that, Jason.
Yeah. I don't know. But they're little, they're still young, they're dreamers. The world is theirs to conquer. And so we have an amazing nursery staff and just volunteers that help out there. Really love on the little kiddos.
Even them, I've walked in there, and they're even, that's not even fully like, hey, we're babysitters, we're providing a daycare facility. It's like, no, like we are empowering, like they're teaching like beginning biblical principles even in those times.
They have a little Bible story that they go through with them.
So cute.
Sometimes a little craft. Recently, we actually have one of our members here from church. He'll go in with like his guitar and just like sing
Oh, how
songs to
cool.
like the little 3-year-olds, and
Yeah,
they
that's
love
awesome.
him.
I'm sure.
So yes, try to begin this as young as
Yeah.
possible. It's never too early to tell a kid that Jesus loves them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if they're just hearing it or feeling it, like that's what we want to do. We want to make sure that even the littlest one feels God's love. And then from there, we have our heroes, which is our 4-year-olds through kindergarten. So they're not first graders yet, but they're not small enough to be in the nursery either, so they have their own little service as well. And we do the whole thing, like they have a Bible story, they have praise, worship, a craft. So we do that, and then of course we have our legends, which is 1st through 5th grade. So they're a little older, so we can get a little more crazier, a little more louder. And so we love to have game time. We love to play girls versus boys, see who's the best. Obviously, girls win.
Oh, wow. Hot take.
Is it girls? Girls rule. But
You guys do have the better song
but
when you guys
we
win
do.
a game.
Well, I mean, I don't know. The boys, I mean, they have like pizza.
That's
Air
true.
guitar. Air guitar.
That's true.
But no, that service gets a little crazy, but it's fun. Teaching them about Jesus, just really our next in Next Gen, World Changers. We really believe in like setting those foundations and just really talking about those biblical truths, hoping to get them into the kids' hearts, and then we pass them on along to YTH, which our prayer is that in YTH, they learn how to live those out. So, Joe, you get to take the 6th graders and above, huh?
Yeah. And
YTH team.
that's our whole heart too, is we know in World Changers, when they're with you guys, they're getting like biblical foundations, they're getting biblical truths, they're getting like any of the basics, like Bible characters, Bible stories, the main themes
Yes.
and overarching themes of the Bible. And so as soon as they hit 6th grade, we're like, okay, how can we teach application?
Yeah.
Like, how
Yeah.
can we teach these young students, like, this is what it looks like to live this out in a day by day,
Yeah.
especially at those ages from 6th to 12th grade, when it's like becoming more prevalent of they're finding their own voice, they're finding kind of their identity, and they are having all the questions throughout that process. And so it is our heart every single week, Sundays with JV, and even, YTH Wednesdays. It's like, what are things that they can walk out of here when we're writing sermons? We even think about when we're bouncing ideas off of each other, we're like, okay, so now what? Because that's what kids are asking. That's what
Yeah.
students are asking.
Yeah.
They're
For sure.
they're hearing these truths of the Bible, but then they're thinking, okay, now what? Like, how do I walk this out in my life? And so we try our best to really build off what World Changers does as far as laying those biblical truths and foundations and being like, okay, here's how you take it out in your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday,
Yeah.
Thursday,
That's awesome. A little bit of my history. I love even how you said, like, now what? Because I think about even my own personal journey and experience growing up here at Harvest Time. For those of you who don't know, I'm someone who's been here literally my whole life, maybe in and out for college or ministry school. But I remember as a kid, I was brought to kids service with my grandmother. I used to call this Grandma's Church. It was so sweet. But I remember having biblical principles, knowing Bible stories or whatever. But I remember these pivotal moments in my life when I went to youth service. And it was like, now what in the world do I do?
Right.
And it was truly like an activating time of your faith. And that's when it becomes like, hey, you have these truths that we've been taught. You know these things. Your parents have talked them through with you. And then it's like, okay, how can you make it for yourself?
Yeah.
And I think it's so beautiful thinking of Next Gen of being like, it's like a pipeline.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, we're going to journey along with these families
Right.
and these kids and see them develop and grow. If you stick around in ministry long enough, too, you get to see kids. The three of us here have seen some kids who, we saw when they were young and now seeing them be leaders. It's the wildest experience.
Yeah.
Not to date myself a little bit, but I've actually served in youth ministry for over 15 years. And so there are families here that I remember like that were being small children and seeing them kind of grow. I actually served Before I was in the position I'm in now, I was part of the Next Gen team. Used to be a part of you
I
guys.
know.
The good old days.
Yeah.
But I love it, and I believe in the next generation. I remember even being a kid, maybe you guys had these same similar experiences. It's like we just want someone to take a chance on us.
Yeah.
Give us that opportunity. And I love getting to kind of not just present biblical truth and even speak what you see in these students, but really see it come into fruition.
Yeah.
It's like the most beautiful, like it brings you to tears even when you
Yes.
think about it.
Absolutely.
There's countless stories of students that I've seen their lives completely changed because of our ministries here at Harvest Time for the next generation. But I've also seen a lot of the repetitive of the, hey, kids are wild.
Yep.
Kids
Yeah.
and youth be something.
The names and the faces change, but the problems stay the same magically.
Even the problems may have a different face, but it's the same root every time.
Yep.
But
It's
even that, it's like,
Yeah.
it's something you know what to do. And it's like, okay, no, I know how I can help these kids.
Exactly. Yeah. And I love what you were saying too about like how we have kids that we knew since they were children and now they are like young adult leaders leading other kids, and just the importance of those long-term relationships. And I think that's another one of the biggest hearts of even our Next Gen ministry is to have a relationship like that that is sustaining enough and long-lasting enough and invested enough in these students' lives that it's like not only is it the students that we're pouring into, but it's families, it's parents that we're partnering with, that we know these people. We have relationships with these people, and we're actually like getting to see just fruit bear in the lives of these families.
Yeah, just to give a little story of an example for that, I think of someone like Destiny Gandy. I remember when she was in what we would call World Changers now. I was serving just randomly in there, got connected with her, but I actually worked at Harvest Time Academy where her brother was in the K-3 class. Like I knew Eli when he was 3 years old, and now I'm seeing him. He rededicated his life this past summer at YTH camp. And it's like things like that. You get to know these students. And now Destiny is one of our young adult leaders in YTH. And it's not even like what you're saying, like you get to partner with the family, but you also get to see the Lord's faithfulness in their family.
Yes.
See him answer their prayers. It's so cool. Even talking about that with all the camps, we have been in a wild season.
Yes.
Very busy.
Yes, we have.
We had
Two back-to-back camps.
two back-to-back weeks of World Changer Camp, YTH Camp here on our campuses. Tell me a little bit about that. How many students in those 2 weeks were here on campus?
So in total, with both YTH Camp and World Changers, we had 303 students.
303 students here on this campus.
Yes, 303 students. Great use of our new facility.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank God that we have that. But yeah, so we had 303 students. We actually partner with our school too, HTA, for our camp, and so they brought over like 75 kids too. So that's really cool that we got to do that. But yeah, 303 students. Some little statistics. First-time salvations, we had about 16. We had 14 kids rededicate their lives to Jesus, which is really cool. It's really cool that even at that age, that young, they can realize like, oh, like I want to, go back to Jesus and follow him and live with him. And so that's really cool. We had 16 baptisms. I believe some of those happened at Alma Water Park, right?
Yeah, in a big giant swimming pool in a water park, because that's
Yes.
youth ministry.
Yep. So that was really cool that we got to do baptisms there. I thought that was sweet. We had 18 filled with the Holy Spirit, right? Which I think, again, just
Incredible.
really cool that we had just kind of wrapped up our own series, like at HT, talking about the Holy Spirit, and then just to see like our youth live that out and be able to experience that was just really cool. Like, God is faithful. And then finally we had 2 called to ministry, right? So this like really cool. I'm just really proud of our team. It was 2 crazy weeks, definitely wild having students in and out, but just, I mean, you can't complain with all that God did. So
Absolutely.
we'd do it all over again.
Yeah, for sure. Like looking back and even looking at so many of the stories from those 2 weeks and just the testimonies from students and what they've told us, like they felt God did in their lives in those 2 weeks, and even like the public declarations that they made, whether it was baptism or just them speaking their testimony to other people and saying, this is what God did at my life at camp. Like, it re-energizes you. Like, you're so tired at the end of those camps, and then you get these stories and you see what God's doing, and you're like, let's do another one.
For real. One of my favorite things was at the Alma Water Park when we did the baptisms, hearing those 15 kids who were getting baptized. We kind of met up and circled up before, and they literally shared, hey, here's why I'm getting baptized. It was it was the purest form of water baptism, where you're publicly declaring your faith, because it's like, here's what my life was like. Here's when I met God this week at camp and what I encountered, and now I'm going to be different. I'm proclaiming that. I'd love to even hear a little bit of stories, because it honestly, it does. It re-energizes you and kind of builds your faith. What's maybe even experience you both had at camp that was like, oh, this really rocked me?
I think for me, we had one day where one of our speakers that was sharing that day just really opened up, and she just talked about how she had come from a broken family, divorced parents, and even as a kid, like how much that impacted her. Yeah. And so she opened up, shared that, and it was really crazy to see how many kids responded to that, and realizing that, like these 1st through 5th graders, like they feel pain, and they feel hurt, and they feel sadness, and the fact that we can bring hope, and we can bring light, even as young as that, like, hey, God's with you. Like, he can be that father figure in your life. Hey, he can, mend those broken pieces in your heart. I think it was just sweet. It was just really powerful for me to witness that, to see one, how a YTH student actually preaching up there was listened to God, opened up, and shared that, and then to see so many kids respond and just see how God came through for them was really cool. It just little breath of fresh air. I was like, all right, God, like, you're working. These kids are small, but they know, and some of them have lived through some pretty hard things, and just to be able to bring hope to that, I think was really encouraging.
Yeah, absolutely. I just remember thinking back at YTH camp, we have a student who has been living in like a boys' home for a while now, and has had some troubles there, just some kind of rough run-ins, and was kind of experiencing that stuff even the week during camp. Camp would end, he'd go back to the boys' home, and it's just like reality sets back in, and the harshness of that situation. Yeah. And even when we were doing baptisms at Alma Water Park, we had a list beforehand of students we knew were going to get baptized. They had filled out the paperwork, everything that we needed to. And this student who came every single day from the boys' home and was going through some really rough stuff, like each night, that we were kind of just walking him throughout that entire week, decided in that moment he wanted to get baptized. Wow. He wanted to make a public declaration that this is his decision. Like, he wants to follow Jesus. He wants to take those next steps. And even seeing in the weeks after that, he's been so engaged in services and has brought friends to services. And it's been like an incredible story of just seeing somebody who went through like such a battle, even just to get to YTH camp and to make it every single day to show up, and still decide to take intentional next steps, and is still taking next steps to get his friends to experience the things that he's experienced.
So cool. That's what it's all about.
Awesome. Yeah.
Like, both of those stories, like, that's, I hope you're getting the heart of like what we do here with our Next Gen Ministries. Like, that's truly what it's about. Yeah. I just always think about the times that I've even been shocked in those moments in camps. Like, even my own personal walk, there were some pivotal faith moments in my own life that happened where I encountered God at camp. And I just love like the sacredness of camp. Those can be such pillar moments in your faith for young people. And so I think about, like, with kids, like what you said, they experience real pain. Yeah. Sometimes it is tragic loss, or it's brokenness in their families, but sometimes, like, it's just life. Yeah. It's hard to even kind of fathom. Like, it's like, oh yeah, there's a young person that has faced real things in a boys' home, like that. The reasons that got him to where he's in a boys' home, like, it's heart wrenching. again, if you've been in ministry long enough, you'll have connections with people where it truly breaks your heart, some of these broken stories.
Right.
But we can all relate because we're all broken. We've
Yeah.
all experienced hurt and pain. And what I really think about with parents is like they can play a part in partnering with you all, with us as a church too. It's like, it's what the church is here for.
Right.
But when it comes to kind of discipleship and helping train their kids and where to go and how to live their faith, like what does that kind of look like to you guys?
Just kind of have like parents, right?
Yeah.
Right? Parents. Well, I talked a little bit about this when I preached, but I like just truly believe that parents, like you guys, get these kids way more than us. Even if even if they have extracurricular activities, like for the most part, they're in your homes. They're there sleeping. They're there, mornings, nights. So you get them a little bit more than us. And I think that as you follow him, you will lead your kids to Christ. So, looking at Deuteronomy 6, verses 4 through 9, you probably heard the passage where God's telling the Israelites, like, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. And, he's just gotten done, like, giving them all the laws and stuff. And he's telling them, like, put them on your doorpost. But I think something that is, like, important here that, I kind of saw was that before he says, you shall teach them diligently to your children, he actually says, these words that I command you today shall be on your heart. So I think it's important to know that, like, as parents, you guys have a direct line to be those examples for your kids. And so just, as you're parenting, as you're living life, as you're doing life, just, remember to follow him, because in doing that, you will lead them to follow Christ as well. Behave like a person that follows Jesus, who loves your neighbor, who, has a relationship with him, whether you're sitting, at the bleachers at a game, or whether you're frying bacon some morning. Just,
Amen.
Aim for consistency. Aim for that
good,
relationship with God, I think.
I even love how you said, like, parents are truly like that true support system. Like, we get them a few hours a week.
Yes. Yeah.
And that is just not enough. With parents, it's such a unique opportunity to get to be that example to your kids every single day, and to be that pillar that your kids can turn to when they have questions about what it means to be a Jesus follower, when they have questions about even the things that they're walking through at school, even questions about their own identity. Like, to have strong parents who have that biblical foundation for themselves and are bold enough to live that out every single day can be so powerful for a child, because it's one thing to see their pastor on stage, live out these virtues a few hours a week, but to see mom or dad live this out every single day, that's things that change a child, that change teenagers, and that inspire the next generation to want to follow Christ, to see, like, man, my mom and dad are so strong in their faith. I want to be like them.
Yeah, I think it's so huge when we're talking about discipleship, but also like what you were saying, just their spiritual development, their spiritual growth. I think I'm not a parent, so I can't say this, but for 100%, but I would imagine that parents are going, how can I help my child? And it's like, yes, we take them to church and we like, okay, you guys can do that. But I love how you said, Nay, the consistency, aiming for that consistent, because that consistency of their own faith. Yeah. Because you're right, like, kids see that.
Yeah.
There's that one liner that vision's better caught than taught. I feel like that's the same thing as with your beliefs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Who you are and how you're just doing those things, what that portrays. Like a child who's in first grade or a child who's in 12th grade, like, they're going to be able to feel that. Yeah. And they'll begin to replicate that. You model what's before you. And so I think that's such a huge part. And I agree, like what you're saying, like, it is important for parents to play a part in, like, their child's development and discipleship process. Talk a little bit more even just about, like, the necessity of their parents and their spiritual growth.
For sure. I think one thing that I think kind of goes under the radar for parents so much of the time is, yes, we are directly with children and students, for our services and things like that. But ultimately, the heart of our Next Gen ministry is to be a resource to parents.
Yeah.
Because parents are not exempt from the
Say
challenges
it
of
again.
life.
Say that again.
And so parents could use a helping hand. They could
Yeah.
use
Oh, yeah.
resources, and that's ultimately what we want to be here
We're
for.
like a life source.
Yes, absolutely. Because parents go through seasons of difficulty and
Yeah.
seasons of question and seasons where maybe they don't know how to reach their kid. Maybe that communication has been broken for a little bit. We are here not only to minister to the students directly, but like we want the sit down conversations with parents. We want the
Yeah.
emails, we want the phone calls, we want the relationship where we can meet with parents and figure out a game plan on how not only to strengthen their kids, but to strengthen them. We
Yeah.
want them to know they're not alone in this.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. That parents are really key in this. Like, we truly believe that, we know that, again, we don't get them as much as them, but we also know that they also face just a lot of things that I'm sure even they have questions on like, this world is crazy. Like, there's a lot of things out there right now that even when we were kids, like, didn't exist,
Yeah.
wasn't
Right.
really talked about. So again, we're in that journey with parents as well. We want to walk with them. We want to build relationships with them, with their kids, and just help them navigate this crazy world that really is trying to steal a lot of kids away. The world
Yeah.
looks great. It looks beautiful, but we're really just trying to help them walk and navigate that.
Yeah. Even when you were saying that last part, it just made me think that Pastor Darren talks about this all the time, about having a Christ-centered home.
Yes.
It's not just a checkbox thing. It's truly to the root and to the core of our families and our family units. Because you're right, the world is so enticing.
Yeah.
I feel like even in this past series of the Selfless series, it's been talking a lot about that of the world looks enticing and tries to
Right.
pull us away.
Yeah.
But there's something about having that God in the center and to the root and to the core and having that developed. I just feel like even in my own personal life, I've seen the necessity of having God at the center.
Yeah.
And kind of when it gets rocky, when that gets unwaverly, but seeing my mom would even say that she knew that she had the support of my small group leaders when I was in high school.
Yeah.
There were definitely times that she had to even lean on them.
Yeah.
Because kids are kids, and I love that you kind of work like we're partners in this development.
Right. And I think the fear of a lot of parents is they don't want to be a burden to other people, but first of all, if you're a parent listening, you are not a burden to us. If you need help, navigating relationships and just conversations with a student, you are not a burden at all. That's what we're here for. And secondly, even if you were a burden, it would be worth having that burden to strengthen these students and build up families.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah. I think something that you said, like them reaching out to us, honestly, that is one easy thing that parents can do is just bring your kids to church, like bring them to YTH, bring them to World Changers. Discipleship happens in relationship.
Yeah.
And so in order for us to have access to their kids, they need to be here. But, even beyond that, like, let us know, like, when they have games, let us know, if they need a little extra support and maybe could use a lunch visit one day. Like, we would love, I think I speak for both of us when I say that we would love to do that. And, even with, I think an important thing for parents to remember too is sometimes kids feel more comfortable talking to their small group leaders.
Yeah.
And that isn't a reflection on your parenting at all. I think it just speaks to the community that they find at church.
Absolutely.
And so make that effort. Like, really bring them to YTH on Wednesday nights. Take them to JV on Sundays. Bring them to World Changers, because that is really where we get to connect with them and build. Start building those relationships with your kiddos and with you as well.
Yeah.
Right.
How many times have we heard it takes a village?
Yes.
Like I've heard
Yeah.
parents
Yeah,
say
yeah,
that all the time, but it's so true. And it's like, hey, this is a community that's ready and fully ready to embrace. But Joe, I think that was powerful, even speaking to maybe even the hesitancy that parents feel sometimes. Because at the same time, as much as the world's enticing, I feel like sometimes the world also entices us to act like you have everything together. Hey, actually, you may not feel like you're a good parent, but I'm going to pretend like I'm the best parent and put on this front. Not because you're trying to be fake, but it's because, like, hey, I'm desperately trying to hold everything together. And so I think just even having that open door of saying, like, hey, share with us when you had a loss in your family and your kids, you don't know how to deal with it and your kids are struggling. Or whatever those struggles may look like. I just feel like it's such a ploy of the enemy to try to make us feel like we're isolated and that we can't reach out for help. And I just feel like that's been the continuation of all three of us keep reiterating is just like, no, like, hey, we're a support and we can like, we're in this together. I just love that. I know there's a couple of resources maybe that you all have that we use and how to even connect with parents. Tell me a little bit what some of those are.
We love Orange curriculum.
We do. Yep. Yes.
Orange curriculum. We've gone to some Orange conferences. If you don't know what that is an entire just ministry and curriculum built on the idea of parent partnerships in ministry. And that has been such a valuable tool for us, World Changers and YTH, just to realize just to the extent of how powerful parent partnerships are. Even thinking back, like just taking in this conversation as a whole, I can probably just think like, man, all the stuff I think we learned at Orange.
Probably as we're talking about it. Think Orange actually also provides an app. It's called the Parent Q app. And on there, they have just a ton of resources. And I mean, even if you don't want to download the app, they even have just like a website. You can probably just Google Parent Q app. And on there, they have articles, they have podcasts, they have just all sorts of resources to help parents, to help navigate, how to have difficult conversations with your kids, how to help them, find their identity and just stuff like that. Like, I think the Parent Q app is a really valuable resource, I would say.
Absolutely. Another thing, if you are here actually at Harvest Time Church and you have a kiddo that's plugged into NextGen Ministry, we have a NextGen Parents Facebook page.
We do,
we pretty much post recaps of every single service that we have. We post a lot of the lessons that we go over in each service. We post announcements, what's happening, special events. We post as many resources as we can think of into that group for parents that we personally know.
We actually also do our own little videos, windshield.
Windshield combos.
Yes.
Well, even those recaps, those are perfect opportunities. I had never heard the term windshield combos until Pastor Chad. But then I was like, oh, it's such an intentional time. You're taking kids to and from ball games to dance practices or whatever sports or extracurriculars your kids are involved in. So it's like for some families, you only get those 20 minutes in the cars. And so it's like, how can I make the most intentional time from those 20 minutes? And some of those even recaps. Hey, what'd you learn about? What did Pastor Joe or Pastor Nay talk about in service this past week? And I would also just suggest, I didn't know if you guys were going to plug this or not, but even just following both of your social media accounts for YTH and World Changers. I personally love looking at that because it's like, look how much fun they're having. But not even just the fun moments, like the prayer and the worship moments that you guys post. It's also really inspiring.
And sometimes it's just a huge win for parents to be able to see when they're dropping their student off, ministry is happening and there's life change that's happening.
Yeah, because sometimes your kiddos may not be very talkative. What did you learn at school today? I don't know.
I promise we teach them. We teach them Bible.
But we have no shortage of resources for parents. And also, we're here. We are here all the time. Always feel free to reach out, whether you see us on a Sunday or email us throughout the week, or whether you email, this podcast and you're just like, help, I need questions or I need answers. That's what we're here for. We are also a resource.
And Think Orange actually, again, going back to Think Orange, we talk about it all the time, but they have this really cool book too. It's called It's Just a Phase, and it literally walks you through like the different phases that your kids could possibly go through. They start with like infants, and they go all the way up to 12th grade. And so it's really cool. I had the book, and then Pastor Chad asked me for it, and I haven't seen it since. But before when I was flipping through it, it was really cool because they really do like go through each stage, and they just talk through like what can you expect, like what your kids are realizing, questions that they may have. And so I think it's just a really cool resource that parents could have, just so that they're in 5th grade and they're, all the hormones and everything changing. Like, hey, here's a resource of maybe how you can navigate those conversations, how you can navigate all the changes happening. So I thought I'd throw that in there. It's just a phase. That's what it's called. You can find it at Think Orange, and it literally walks you through just different phases of your kids' lives.
Yeah.
Sorry, you go,
no,
Joe.
Go ahead.
Both of us. Oh, you go. No, you go.
Standoff.
I was just thinking of another resource that I know of. If you have younger kids that you're going, hey, I'm a new parent starting out in this journey. How in the world what do I do? Yeah. I actually personally have probably about 10 copies of this book. So feel free to reach out to our email, moreandbetter@harvesttime.net, to claim those. But it's Boundaries with Kids and How Healthy Choices Grow Healthy Children. Another fantastic book. Henry Cloud did several of these series of talking about boundaries.
Yeah.
Probably very familiar with those. But that's also just if some of you may like reading just a book to get a resource. So I'd highly recommend that.
Yeah. I was going to say one thing that we model like very heavily in our Next Gen Ministries is the importance of getting kids in small groups.
Yes.
And so they all have small group leaders. As they grow older, we have kind of small group hangouts even that we'll try to do outside of church hours. I would say as important as it is for us to model the necessity of small groups and community for students, parents, please join a small group. They are very life-giving, and the reason that we believe in small groups for our students so much is because, like you were saying earlier, Nay, we believe the power of community. And so I think it would be a huge, huge win for not only your student to have a great small group and a great small group leader that can invest in them, but for you as a parent to have a great small group leader that can invest in you.
Yeah, for sure.
I love how you talk to parents, because that's actually that I had that's something that I had written down too, is for parents to, we're talking about kids and what you can do for them, but really it just also wanted to encourage parents to take care of themselves.
Yeah.
Like, you mentioned join a small group, but, parents need support too. Like, nobody is born knowing how to parent.
Yeah.
It's something that you have to learn. So, give yourself grace. There's going to be good days. There's going to be bad days. But just, I really encourage you guys to just take care of yourselves. Like, if you need to go talk to counselors, like that's never bad.
And that's okay.
It's okay. Go to therapy, talk to someone, find a hobby. If you have time. I know, like, if you're in the middle of like toddler season, you probably are like, girl, I have no time. But, just make the
My
effort.
hobby is sleeping.
Or drinking coffee. But just, parents, you need support too. You need to take some time for yourself. To build healthy homes, we need healthy parents.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So like Joe said, join a small group or go and play pickleball or tennis. I don't know, like whatever that hobby might be. Take some time for yourselves too.
Yeah.
I think that's important. The health of your kids is linked to you.
Yeah.
And so take care of yourselves.
Yeah, I think that's huge, because no matter what age your kiddo is going to be, they're going to see how mom and dad responds. And the hurts of life are inevitable.
Yeah.
And so it's just going back to that, making Christ the center, leaning on his goodness and reaching out, getting help when you need it, saying sorry when you need to say sorry. No one's expecting any parent to be perfect.
Yeah.
And I just hope whoever's listening to this, that you're finding freedom and you're experiencing even the love of God and the grace that he has for you as a parent. I've also loved just the amount of resources. I feel like we threw so much at them. You may have to go back and press that rewind button a few different times to get all those resources. I also wanted to highlight one more resource, Nay. You all gave out Bibles that were like these interactive Bibles. There may be some parents going, hey, like I need a type of Bible that I can help speak to my kids. Can you kind of, what is that? Do you remember the name of that one?
It was Hands-On Bible. Like that's all I remember. It's a blue cover, Hands-On Bible, but it has like it's like it's not a kid version of the Bible. It's like it's the whole Bible. You know, some Bibles, you know, it's just like Bible stories, but these were like Genesis through Revelations, and in between there, like they had different activities that you could do with your kids, different questions that you can ask them. And so, yeah, we gave those Bibles, I think 2 years ago, 2 Easters ago.
Lord, that was 2 Easters ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is time?
I know. It feels like, but this year we gave devotionals. So we're just always looking to give resources to parents because we truly believe, you know, it starts at home. And so, that was fun. That was fun to do.
Well, again, thanks so much. You guys, Next Gen team, we're missing a couple of different people. From our team that's here on the podcast today, but you guys are incredible. So thankful for the ministry and the impact that you have in the next generation here at Harvest Time and the generations to come. We're creating the foundations and building that pathway. The generation or the people that we're going to be developing next. And it's just going to keep on going. Parents who are listening, I hope you are feeling so encouraged that you're like, oh, I can do this. There's this is going to be a pathway for them to create partnerships with you guys. I will say we are going to link all the different resources because, like I said earlier, there were tons of resources. We just threw out at all of them. They were probably desperately trying to find a pin while they're driving in their cars. So we'll link those in the show notes. If you aren't able to find those, again, and you have any other questions, like Joe said, if maybe you need, say, hey, I need some help. Email us at moreandbetter@harvesttime.net. We're going to keep tackling more and more and different topics of all how to make us more and better disciples of Christ because we all need help. We all are able to develop and learn better. But thanks again so much, and we will see you all next week.